What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another F1 24 My Team Career Mode episode. This week we're in China. It's the first sprint race of the season. I'm just filling up on activities here. We're doing really well recently just to fill out all of the activities that we need to kind of, give Yano a bit of extra pace, keep our facility staff happy. And we're going to upgrade the pit equipment. In the past few races we've had too many mistakes that cost us time. We can't afford to lose any time than we already do, so we're going to upgrade that.
Now here's something we haven't said for a little while. Welcome along to qualifying in China. After a few years' absence from the calendar, it is great to be back here. But just who is going to put their car on pole?
Exactly, Crofty. Who is going to put their car on pole? This is the sprint race qualifying. So here we go for qualifying.
Take it easy to start with, the track's very wet.
Indeed it is. We checked the weather before, you can see us nodding yes, it is wet out there. I think this is our first run of the session in Q1. We do have a dry setup because the race and the actual qualifying for the race, the main Grand Prix, is completely dry. So we're just going to have to try and brave out here on the inters as we try to slowly put the power down after the first couple of corners. Down the straights, no problem at all, obviously, as you'd expect, it's just a straight line. And here, this corner I was struggling with quite a lot in just getting the car stopped, getting it turned in nicely. On the exit, we're even getting wheel spin in 5th gear, such is the kind of low downforce setup we have for this weekend. But generally the car felt okay. It didn't, just as I say that, we spin. Almost spinning out. We are going to continue on the lap. I'm not sure if we actually fully went off, but at the same time we lost a tremendous amount of time, so I don't think we really should be penalised for track limits there. We also got some grass on our tyres, which really won't help us through these next few corners, next few turns even. Here we go onto the long back straight, dumping all of the battery, and you'll hear us get up to 8th gear even before the DRS is opened and just absolutely blitzing it all the way down the straight, leaving a little bit in the tank for the little short run up to the line, drop it down into 2nd, open up the steering towards the outside curb. This is a very quick last left-hander. It's a 90-degree, try not to go too wide because your car will bottom out over that last curb and across the line in 5th. Obviously only 5 cars will have run at that time, and after everyone else's runs we're down in P17. We're actually ahead of Hulkenberg and Ocon, but just behind our teammate, which is a decent first showing for Jarno Opmeer, the owner driver. And you can see as the racing line comes into play a little bit, as the track dries out, our tyres are a bit warmer, we gain 4 tenths, 5 tenths, even more than that just in the first couple of corners. Obviously we're gaining confidence every lap we complete here. This is likely to be one of our last laps of the session, and actually a purple sector 1 according to the sector times, but I can imagine people will be going faster than that on this set of inters. But it doesn't look like everyone's left the pit box. You just look in the bottom left, you can see a bunch of cars on the main pit straight just staying in the box. Potentially they think they're through and they don't have to go out again. But as you can see, the track is improving all the time. It's evolving as this dry line comes in and the tyres get up to temperature. Purple sector 1, purple sector 2, we are 2.5 seconds up on our previous time as we go a little bit wide there, trying not to go over to that curb. It can really just hold you out wide, but we managed to somehow get it back onto the track, as now we're again draining all of that battery down towards the last hairpin, really, the really huge braking zone here. On the previous lap I was locking up massively into this corner, so I just let off the brakes a little bit. We have a lot of time in hand, so we can kind of back off a little bit there just to make sure we get it stopped. And here again we do really push the track limits there and across the line into P9. very nice result for us there. But you can see everybody's in the garage pretty much. There's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cars out on track. So even if every car, somehow including us, if every car went faster than us, we're through. There's only 30 seconds left in this session. We're going to keep pushing. We do have a bit of battery left. We're a tenth down after the first couple of corners. Coming into the first heavy braking zone here. And we're losing a bit of time still, but gaining it back in places, maybe under traction, taking a bit more minimum speed through the corners. So this fast left-hander just keeps turning and turning and turning until you open up the steering wheel and chuck it in for the high-speed right-hander that's slowly getting a little tighter. You've got to let the car wander away from the apex curb and bring it back in to obviously turn into that slower third gear left-hander. Again, a purple Sector 2. Obviously we didn't improve at all in Sector 1. Kind of understandable. But at the same time we've picked up a lot of time in the middle sector. And we are now half a second up. We obviously took the first corners of Sector 3 very calmly in the previous lap. And now we're just going to bring it home. We're in P12 currently. Just behind Norris and Perez, surprisingly enough. I think these wet conditions is really evening out the field, bringing it more down to how good you can get your lap. As we go really wide there and lose a tremendous amount of time, we are going to push to the line, and that will bring us into third place. Third place. Obviously it's qualifying 1 for the sprint race, so that doesn't mean we're going to start in third by any means. But let's see where we end up. We do have Hamilton and Charles Leclerc out in SQ1, which is sprint qualifying 1. Jarno made it through as well, which is a fantastic showing here. Now we already did a banker in SQ2, wasn't anything special. But you can see how much the track has dried out. It is still kind of inters in this qualifying 2. So obviously everyone's on intermediate tyres, but you can see how much it's dried out already. Even from the difference between this lap, that we're currently almost 2 seconds up on the delta compared to our previous lap, as Jarno's in front of us there. Maybe he'll give us a bit of a slipstream on that back straight, but he's potentially close enough to lower our downforce through this middle sector, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, look how much grip these tyres have. Back end still wanting to step out slightly, and really kind of trying to push the limits here and see how much grip there is now. But there's clearly a massive amount of grip available for these intermediates now, as most of the water has gone, and Jarno's in perfect position here to kind of make us struggle through this corner before the long straight. Maybe we'll be able to steal a little bit of slipstream from him as we do that for maybe like a tenth of a second. It's really not the best way of helping out your teammate there, Jarno, but I understand he's also got his own lap to do in a few corners time. We do go a little bit deep into that final hairpin. We're still almost 2.5 seconds up on our delta. I can only imagine everyone else will go as much faster on their laps as we did on our laps. As Jarno boxed, actually, he wasn't preparing for a lap. That was an in lap. And here you go. We have an unsuitable tyre warning and a session warning,
clear the garage, please. Cars ready to leave.
Which basically means the team don't think there's time to get round to start a lap, and they were right. We tried cutting corners and really abusing the layout of the track, of the circuit, but it just wasn't working. But we get through anyway. P9 on the road, obviously Red Bull the first, second, McLaren's up there, Fernando Alonso, Russell, Pierre Gasly and Kevin Magnussen, as well as ourselves and Zhou Guanyu to fill out the top 10. And again, we were the only ones to go onto the mediums. We didn't have enough time in the end, but we tried it. It was ready for dries. And now we're into SQ3, our first Q3 of the career mode. It's dries, and we're against some fast cars. I think we had the pace in the wet because of the track evolution. I think everybody else went out for pretty much one run. I don't think they were really maximizing what they could do on dries. Potentially everyone else going for a dry setup as well, as this is the final lap that we're going to do in this sprint qualifying session. Gaining a bit of time there out of the, I guess, turn 2, coming down towards the heavy braking zone in turn 3, which is a sort of the first hairpin there. We do cut the curb a little bit. That does seem to help rotate the car a little bit. And yeah, these next few corners, definitely enough grip now. We're not worrying at all about spinning out or running out wide. We're just throwing the car in where we can, trying to use the battery as well where we can, just to maximize our exits. We do miss the apex there quite heavily, which just costs us a little bit of time, but that, yeah, potentially is going to help pay us back on this exit here, but not initially. Maybe we have enough battery just to really push us up to that kind of top speed and really gain down the straight, but look how much time we've lost. I don't think there's any way we can improve here, although apparently on the previous lap we must have messed up that hairpin in some way, because we gained all of our time back. We really jumped the curb there, and because of it we lost all of our time that we'd gained. And that sits us, as you'd expect, in P10. So nothing too fancy, a good start for the sprint race.
Forget pit stops, forget fuel management. It's pedal to the metal all the way here as we get ready for today's sprint. Shanghai International Circuit then is a 16-corner high-speed thrill ride. The long and ever-tightening right-hander at turns 1 and 2 tests a driver's patience, and the flat, open to the elements location, test their skill in a crosswind. 2 DRS zones will assist passing, and they're available into turn 1 and down the kilometre-long back straight into turn 14. Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting sprint. Max Verstappen put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And starting next to them is George Russell. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Norris, Perez, Fernando Alonso, Oscar Piastri, Gasly, Magnussen, Joe, Brown, Bottas, Ricciardo, the owner driver, Albon, Sainz, Stroll, Leclerc, Hülkenberg, Ocon, Sargent, Hamilton, and Yuki Tsunoda. Which of these drivers will get pole position today? We'll soon find out. Well, it's been a long time since I last worked with you. Good to see you again today. Anthony Davidson. Well, they say that a change is as good as a rest, and whilst there's not much rest on show in the sprint format today, there's definitely a change to what we're usually seeing on the track. I know what we've got to do before the start of today's race, but what about our driver? What do the final hours look like for them?
Well, for them, you've got your pre-race rituals that you go through. You see different drivers that, some have got their headphones on, they're listening to the music. Some drivers really absorb the energy from the crowd and they're there waving to them. Other drivers, they go within themselves. They chat to their engineers, absorbing that information, that vital information that you need to carry you through the race. And, those pre-race rituals are essential to making things systematic. We do a lot of Grand Prix in a season, and the more systematic you can be, the easier you are within that environment.
Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
Exactly. So no stops in this sprint race, just purely because it's not long enough to warrant a pit stop. I think we're going to go mediums. Hards, They're just going to be a bit too slow, I think, for the duration of the race. I think the mediums are the way to go. Softs will just fall apart. But here we go, starting P10 in the first sprint race of the 2024 season. All the lights are on, and now they're out. That was a very, very short hold on the lights, and we do get a bit of a slow getaway here. We're just going to try and burn the battery just to stay ahead of Ricciardo and a few others as we almost go into the side of Gasly and into the back of Magnussen at the same time. Just 2 by 2 by 2, potentially by 2 by 2, all the way back there. To try and take a bit of a different line here around the outside just to get a bit of speed to burst down and dive bomb at the end of this little mini straight with the kink. As we go down the inside of Gasly and Magnussen, making it 3 wide. We do try and focus on the traction and using the battery to get out of the corner, as you can see how kind of 2 by 2 it is. We sweep around the outside of Pierre Gasly in his Alpine, and that actually gets us a double overtake to put us into P7. Now Gasly's fighting it back, as you'd imagine. It's points on the table here today for us, as well as for Gasly and Magnussen, and a couple of others behind as well. I think include Ricciardo, Zhou, Bottas. Whoever you want to put your money on today could be walking away with a couple of sprint race points. And you can see the kind of difference in pace and performance of the cars between sort of the midfield teams and maybe ourselves, could be classed as midfield at the moment, and the likes of the front running cars. We lock up and almost spin. We actually hit Gasly, I think, there on his sort of front wing. I think his right end plate is gone from that. Obviously not much we could do there. We just tried to slam on the brakes. We did lock up, and we kept it kind of in a straight line, but not really, and that just kind of spat us into the side of Gasly. So yeah, not much we can really say there. I was potentially thinking about swapping out the engine before this weekend, but I thought the longer we can hang on to this engine and the components that we have in it, the better our engine and the fresher it will be when we get more upgrades on the car, which will obviously help us in future races to potentially get some more points and get ahead of Alex Albon, who in the last episode we said to the media that he was our rival. He was the guy that we were racing against. We wanted to beat him. Obviously, driver for Williams, the number 1 driver for Williams, alongside Logan Sargent. Yeah, we're doing that today. We've got him well and truly ticked off in our list of things to do, and we've actually broken DRS to Gasly, which would help us, but Gasly has Magnussen right behind him, who's going to have DRS for a lot of this long straight here. So I imagine Magnussen will fly past Gasly and potentially straight onto the back of us as we go a little bit deep into that hairpin again. Gasly and Magnussen swapping places behind us as Magnussen's right on the cusp of DRS, which there is a detection point right there, as I tried to keep him out of 1 second and took to the runoff area there, but Magnussen already had DRS. There's no losing this train now. Surely there's no losing this train. We're trying to do everything we can just to give ourselves an advantage on this back straight. We do have decent straight line speed, but look how close that Haas is behind us, and DRS isn't even active yet. We're not going to spend our battery. There's not much we can do here. We're just sticking behind him. Now we use our battery to close back in and fight for this P7 on the road. Try and do the outside, but there's just not much doing there. That hairpin can be hard to stick around the outside. A little lock up as we go into the last turn. And now we have DRS. So let's see how much we can play with Magnussen here. I would argue we've got the advantage just because of the DRS. And this first turn we like to take it out wide and swoop back in to really open up this second turn. Try not to climb on the curb too much though, because that will unsettle the car. And now we've got Ricciardo right behind us. Hopefully Ricciardo understands what we're trying to do, just keep the DRS to Magnussen, keep him within touching distance, and really capitalise on that back straight. Magnussen's kind of getting away from us here a little bit, 7/10, obviously coming down a bit now. But let's try and make sure we keep him in touching distances. We run a little bit wide there before this third gear left-hander, before we open it back up again, running up to the DRS kind of detection chicane. I'm going to call it a chicane. It's not really a chicane, it's kind of like two hairpins back to back. But there's the detection point there, and we've got the DRS on Magnussen. So we're almost halfway through the sprint race. We should hopefully stay in touch with Magnussen here. I think Gasly's out of DRS, with Ricciardo behind us as well, which is very helpful. But Ricciardo's really burning his battery to try and stay in front, or get in front, not stay in front. So we lock up and almost go into the back of Magnussen, and Ricciardo takes advantage of our mistake of that lockup, and again, we're just locking up the tyres far too much. It's really costing us a massive amount of time, which you can see there. We now are out of the points in this sprint race, which is not what we wanted to see. We had such a good start, we had such a good sort of pace in the initial part of this race, but just a few too many mistakes. I think potentially, you know, getting blinded by the clouds almost. We're too high up. And now Zhou is coming at us. We do try and squeeze him to the outside of the track, and we're going to dive bomb him down the inside of the bottom of this hairpin. Do we get the place here? Zhou is still alongside. We're going to be side by side. I'm trying to keep him pinned to the inside as we go around the outside. Zhou jumps over the curb, which does slow him down. We do have a bit of battery to play with here, but so does Zhou. And there he goes, just a little bit on the outside. Who can keep their foot in on this corner? Zhou's trying to hold it around the outside. We do give him the space, but I think such is that first corner. If you're on the inside, you do have a lot of command unless the other car can really pin you into the inside, which obviously we were able to kind of push Zhou outside instead of him like pushing us to the inside, which is good for us. But now it means that Zhou does have the DRS as we go down to this long back straight. And again, we're going to do the same thing we did last time. We do lock up a little bit that time, and I think we actually made a little bit of contact again. Our lockups, they're an issue. I need to figure out exactly what it is in the car that is causing that. I think I potentially moved the brake bias forwards, as now Zhou and Sainz, who really shouldn't be having to fight for no points in this sprint race. And yeah, we've got to try and get these guys back after they got through on us and that pit straight. There's no way about it. We're on the last lap of the sprint race. Sainz, I think, is just going to be in front of us. I don't think we're going to get Sainz back, but potentially we will. And yeah, potentially now we have a fight on our hands with Bottas, as somehow Zhou is keeping that Ferrari of Carlos Sainz behind him in front of us. And as you can see here, the different line we have to the AI, just swooping it around wide so we can get in and flick the front end in for that third gear left-hander. And I think we're going to get the DRS on Sainz and Zhou. I don't think there's going to be much for us to do, because we'd be in a DRS train as we do drop a wheel over that curb again, and that really hinders our exit here, as now Bottas is right behind us and Zhou and Sainz are way up the road. We're going to have to burn the battery here, I think, as we really cut off the inside from Bottas. We don't want him to have that inside. Brake late, try and get it stopped. We do lock up again, which kind of gives Bottas the idea of a switchback, but we cover that off. And now on the last corner, it's just a short run up the line, and we have P11 for the sprint race.
And that's the end of the race. We'll see you in Parc Fermé.
There's a lot of going backwards in that race. I think driver of the day is Fernando Alonso, but a lot of going backwards.
Well, that's an end to the sprint action. Next up, we'll set the grid for the Grand Prix. So we'll see you next time.
Indeed, you'll see us very shortly, as now it's time for the qualifying, which, as I mentioned earlier in the weekend, it's dry. We're going to throw on a couple of upgrades. We do have a bit of resource points here to spend, and I think it's going to go to the front wing, potentially. We're going to have a look around, but I think it's going to go front wing. or tyre wear, because I think tyre wear is one of the reasons why we're locking up more as we get into, like, further into each stint on each tyre before pit stops, etc. And yeah, we just need to play around with that.
Now here's something we haven't said for a little while. Welcome along to qualifying in China. After a few years' absence from the calendar, it is great to be back here. But just who is going to put their car on pole?
Exactly, that is the question. Is we're going to, shake some hands. It's a good performance from the team to get us into that position to get the car out on track and in the best condition for us to capitalise on the sprint qualifying in the sprint race. Unfortunately, no points for us. We do have an issue with locking up brakes, potentially tyre wear, which is why we went for that upgrade. And I think I've just got to play around with the brake bias here. I think there's no way to really say anything. I think literally the one point of change difference in the brake bias either locks the fronts or locks the rears. So it's kind of which one do you prefer. It's obviously it's a skill issue. It's more of a skill issue than you'd think. I do need to, talking outside of the game here, I do need to organise a way of setting up my chair. I've got an office chair, and obviously the pedals and the wheel. The wheel is fastened to the desk. I can remove it obviously, but it's fastened to the desk. I do have pedals under the desk, which are held in place by, let me have a look. It's a box that normally would house a keyboard. So it's the box I got the keyboard in. And another box on top of that. And then the thing that keeps my chair in place, because my chair has wheels, is essentially the box of the pedals, another box, and an empty box of a laptop, as our first lap gives us P10 in Q1, which drops us down. Pierre Gasly in P2. That's a shock. And other than that, I don't see many shocks there, besides potentially the fact of us getting through into Q2. That's a bit of a surprise. But kind of going back to my previous point, I have the pedals sort of pushed up against a cardboard box, and I have my chair pushed up against the cardboard box that kind of keeps me in place, but my chair does rotate. So I have things I want to sort out. I am making excuses, massively so, and if I can think of any better excuses, I will, and I'll pretend that all of this is a lie. But right now we're into Q2. This is obviously our first lap. It's the very end of the session. I don't foresee us getting much higher on the grid than P16, to be honest with you. Maybe we can push P15, 14, something like that, but it really depends on how many lockups we get into any of the heavy braking zones, the last corner, any point in time where you are sort of relying on getting the car stopped, but in a really efficient way, so that you can really carry the minimum speed through the corner. Corners potentially like this, I feel like it's too slow really to worry about lockups. And obviously this exit is all about just when you can put the power down, keeping the car turning, trying not to run out onto those curbs, because they will spit you out the other side and ruin your lap. As Max Verstappen goes fastest on his flying lap, and now all we have to do is spot the braking point, which we've actually done pretty well there, get the car rotated, which was a little bit later than where we would like it to be rotating. As now Carlos Sainz takes the top spot. We cut that curb nicely, doesn't spit us out too wide, and we go across the line to start in P13, which is a good result, I would say. Very good result. And you can see there, Yuki Tsunoda, Daniel Ricciardo around us. We must have a good bit of pace to stick with the Visa Cash App RB. And yeah, a few there, even Pierre Gasly into P10. He's making a habit of that, indeed.
It's time again then for Formula One in Shanghai. Northwest of the thriving city of over 24 million people is a circuit that first featured in the championship calendar back in 2004. It played host to Formula One's 1000th Grand Prix back in 2019. Shanghai International Circuit then is a 16-corner high-speed thrill ride. The long and ever-tightening right-hander at turns 1 and 2 tests a driver's patience. And the flats, open to the elements location, test their skill in a crosswind. 2 DRS zones will assist passing, and they're available into turn 1 and down the kilometre-long back straight into turn 14. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday, and he'll start from pole position. And Max Verstappen lines up alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Oscar Piastri, Sainz, Leclerc, Russell, Fernando Alonso, Stroll, Tsunoda, Brown, Ricciardo, Perez, Gasly, Bottas, Magnussen, Hamilton, Albon, Hulkenberg, Joe, Sargent, the owner driver, and Esteban Ocon lines up at the back of the grid. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. And alongside me here today in the commentary box, Anthony Davidson. I know what we've got to do before the start of today's race, but what about our driver? What do the final hours look like for them?
Well, for them, you've got your pre-race rituals that you go through. You see different drivers that, some have got their headphones on, they're listening to the music. Some drivers really absorb the energy from the crowd and they're there waving to them. Other drivers, they go within themselves. They chat to their engineers, absorbing that information, that vital information that you need to carry you through the race. And, those pre-race rituals are essential to making things systematic. We do a lot of Grand Prix in a season, and the more systematic you can be, the easier you are within that environment.
Exactly. I feel like they were repeating themselves a little bit from the sprint race, but that's absolutely fine. Obviously, different audiences, different days, all that good stuff. So we actually moved up the order. I think we're in P10 now, and that was thanks to 3 penalties. We got Perez, Gasly and Lewis Hamilton, all with grid place penalties. Not sure why. Maybe they're taking extra components. I think Gasly potentially had some blocking penalties, although that could have been resolved in the sprint race. So we'll find out in a bit, if at all. And yeah, just checking out the setup there. It's doing okay. I think, yeah, we just got to go with it. Medium hard strategy. Go with the AI. Try not to make too many mistakes and see where we end up in the end. As all lights are on, and now they're out for the Shanghai Grand Prix. So we've got Stroll and Alonso directly ahead of us. We've got Ricciardo just next to us. Actually, not Ricciardo. We've got another Visa Cash App RB next to us. We're going to try and send it down the inside of Stroll here. Think about sending it down Alonso, but he closes off that door. So we're going to try and really squeeze Stroll to the inside. But such is the pace difference between the cars that are kind of fighting at the front and the cars that aren't, the cars that are fighting more for points. We're going to have no chance against fighting that Aston Martin, and instead we'll just slot in behind. They're all on hards, so this really kind of just showed you the pace difference between the cars ahead of us and the group of cars that we're fighting with, essentially, at this part of the season. The hard tyres on those cars have the pace to keep the cars on mediums behind them. And yeah, we are locking up. It's definitely something. I've not struggled with it too much this season. I'm not sure whether it's just something with the setup that I've done this weekend that is causing me to have issues with the lockups. As you can see me play with the brake bias down in the bottom right, trying to move it a little bit more rearwards so that I'm not I'm trying to balance them out a bit more. As you can see, it was lockups from both the front and the rear there. I think I'm just trying to turn too much, trying to brake too much at the same time. Again, it's entirely a skill issue. As we move on to lap 3, we've still kept everybody else behind us now as Tsunoda's trying to go round the outside. Look at the overspeed he has there as we try and sneak back up the inside. and just, yeah, get to the apex first. That was my goal. Get to the apex first, sort out in turn 2, and then put the power down and escape down this little straight with a kink. And now again, just force him to the outside, get to the apex, sort it out on the exit, which Sonoda has got a great exit there. He's trying to get through. There's a long left-hander here, as I'll try and hold him really tight to the inside there, and he does back out of it eventually. And yeah, you can see behind us actually Perez has come through since the last lap. You'll see me skipping through a lot because this is already a really long video. So get all over the curbs there, as now Perez is wanting to come through, and I initially think about potentially blocking him off. But then I kind of think, you know, that Red Bull, he's going to get through no matter what I do. There's no way I can hold him behind, as we have a massive moment there, which then gives Sonoda the advantage. And yeah, there you go. You can see a little bit of battery use, bit of DRS, keeps us ahead of Sonoda. And we're actually pulling up onto the back of Perez, as we're going to send it down the inside of Perez, but we go far too deep. We completely did not think about the overspeed. We haven't had DRS much in this weekend at all, especially when we're sending it down the inside of cars. We really aggressively send it down the inside of Sonoda there. And is this going to be a repeat here? I'm going to go to the inside, but Sonoda gets there first. Look at that overspeed with the DRS open down this long back straight. We're now going to go back to the outside of Yuki Tsunoda. Try and do a switch back, but there's just not enough space, as I almost spin it, leaving that last hairpin there. And now we're under attack from Ricciardo behind the Visa Cash App RB team, working well together. And hopefully we're going to keep him behind with a bit of battery, but we are running very low on the ERS, the kind of the energy recovery system kind of powers the car. I think there's is it 150 horsepower I think it gives the engine, so it's a lot of power that it can provide down the straight. As you've seen, whenever you turn it on in the straight line, you get a miraculous speed boost. It's an incredible system. And we've lost touch to Sonoda, and now we're under attack from Ricciardo. Again, we're falling backwards in this race. But is there anything we can do to kind of get back at some of these cars? As nope, we can't hold it around the outside there. The exit again spitting us out a little bit with the oversteer. And can we do anything here? We are pretty close to Ricciardo. I'm kind of tempted to chuck it around the outside in the first corner, or chuck it down the inside. Let's see which way we go, if any. We're just going to try and roll it into the corner. Try and get to the outside of Ricciardo, keep it nice and tight to him. Can we then get to the second turn apex? We do, and obviously give Ricciardo a little bit of a squeeze there for good measure. And now he's still coming at us on the outside. Here you can see how much we're squeezing him to the outside. It's borderline to say if we gave him space or not, but he's still there on the outside, as we're now going to try and swoop around the outside like we did in the sprint race. And there we go. Back up into P11. Yuki Tsunoda is disappearing up the road, as you know, we've been battling and costing ourselves time with Daniel Ricciardo. And yeah, we've managed to gain some battery back here, which I'm trying to hold on to until the back straight, just purely because that's where we need it the most. There's not really that much that can be done in terms of getting past us in the middle sector. At least the first sector, there's one or two spots, that being the first corner and after the little kink at the start of sector 2. And yeah, Daniel Ricciardo flies past. We get a little bit of slipstream, use the battery and send it down the inside once again. Try and push him a bit wide, but he's wise to that, and he takes to the switchback and gets the run on us here. We're going to try and send it down the inside again, as we did to Tsunoda, his teammate, a few laps ago, and we also get the DRS. So now we're against Kevin Magnussen. Magnussen and Hamilton took advantage of Ricciardo being a bit out of position and battling with us, and Magnussen moving on the brakes a little bit there, I have to say, as we do tap the rear of his Haas car on the sort of midpoint of that last turn. Try and just stay with him a bit. I think we can stay with Magnussen. We can stay with the Haas. People will be coming into the pits, as you can see. drivers like Charles Leclerc have come in behind us. You know, they obviously were in front of us as we heavily squeezed Magnussen almost off the track on the inside curb there, but essentially give him the same treatment that we gave Daniel Ricciardo. We do like to defend very aggressively and dive bomb aggressively as well. But now we're going to see if we can keep Magnussen behind. We're halfway through the race. We do have to make our pit stop at some point and jump over to the hard compound tyres. We're just trying to keep it all in check right now. Keep the guys behind us that we can, so we can hopefully get a couple of points. We go a little bit wide there just before this sort of mini straight before the DRS detection for the long back straight, and Magnussen is extremely close, within about 4/10 of us as we're exiting this corner. We do have 80% battery as we're starting this kilometer long straight, and Magnussen breezing past us. We are going to start to use the battery and squeeze him to the outside as much as possible. Under brakes, we do pull fully alongside. A little bit of a lockup. He tries to go for the switchback, but nothing doing there as more cars peel into the pits ahead of us. The likes of Alonso, Russell, Verstappen. We go a little bit deep, trying to keep the distance to Magnussen, who then pits straight away. Now, moving forward to after we've boxed, we're obviously lost a place to Magnussen under the pit stops. He would have had fresher tyres, and after our pit stop we came up behind him. Our tyres should be nice and warm, using the DRS here to get a bit closer. I'm potentially thinking about a move down the inside, but he's really squeezing us to the inside. Obviously there's going to be contact there, Magnussen, if you don't leave the space for us. And we're going to end up side by side going into the last corner. Alex Albon is right behind us already, looking to capitalise on this. We have to take it slower, as now we're 3 wide down the pit straight. Albon getting a better exit than both Magnussen and myself as we go side by side, almost into the first corner. We try and just sneak up the inside to claim the apex of the first corner, and that was a very intense little battle there between Magnussen, Albon and myself. Thankfully, we came up on top this time. Now, Albon's got the DRS. We don't have any DRS to aid us. We do have a little bit of battery. We're using every last bit as we switch to the outside. Under brakes, try and keep him tight to the inside, claim that outside line. We almost spin under acceleration there, but we sit in behind. We're patient. We know there's a bit of DRS coming up just now, and hopefully Ricciardo is going to keep it to himself. No, he's really going for it. He's definitely added a bit of battery to the mix, as now we're going to try and hold it around the outside of Ricciardo and potentially look to get the outside on Albon. We do squeeze him right over that curb, which compromises him into turn 2, and we get the place back. Now, here, Ricciardo and Albon are side by side. We want Ricciardo to be a little bit of a buffer between us and Albon. We lock up the inside front into this sort of first little hairpin, if you like, on the track, and Ricciardo's done it. He is ahead of Alex Albon, who obviously in the laps in between now and that previous clip, Albon was able to get ahead, and Albon's now trying our technique, and you'll just see me walking wide a little bit before taking the apex of turn 1, just to really kind of bully him out of the corner, try and just get my elbows out a little bit. It's what we have to do in this car at the moment, this early in the season. We do have upgrades coming on the car. We do have a bit more pace each weekend, each race that goes by. We get better with the car. We get better upgrades on the car to make the car itself faster. We dial in the setup. We have the battery. Albon has the DRS. Who's going to come out on top this time? Albon going to the outside. We do try and cut him off, but the overspeed of that Williams is crazy, and we're just going to have to tuck just inside as there's contact behind us. I think Magnussen and Ricciardo coming together at the apex of the hairpin, and we're now just going to sit in behind Alex Albon. We know we can get him swooping around the outside of turn 1. Is that where we're going to go again? Albon's really kind of slowly closing off that side, so we go to the inside as we again get our elbows out a little bit, try and walk into the outside, but we are not pushing him off the track by any means. We're just really trying to claim the inside and bully our way through in a way. Moving on to lap 19, a couple of laps to go now. Well, 1.5 laps to go. Again, we always enter this sector of the circuit with about 80-90% battery, purely because we're trying to not use it anywhere else on the circuit, only in this really long back straight where the DRS is, it's almost like the Vegas straight, but not as long as the Vegas straight, if that makes sense. It's just very long, very easy for DRS passing down into this heavy braking zone, and this time Albon has nothing in his back pocket to get us with, so we're able to keep him behind. Now I'm assuming he's saving his battery for this, the final lap, as he now looks to the inside. We're going to swoop back to the racing line and try and hold it around the outside. Can we just sneak our wing there? Yes, we can. We do meet him side by side of the apex of turn 1. We just squeeze into the inside of turn 2, which does send us a bit deep here. So Albon might have a bit of the traction coming out, but I think he's a bit too far back for any dive bomb or anything like that. We did lose spots to Tsunoda as well, so we are in 11th at the moment. We're not fighting for points, but we're just looking to beat our rival. We are purely looking to be ahead on the road, and if that means we have to play a little game with him, that's what we have to do. And obviously not the best of exits from that quick left. We did get all over the curbs a bit. We're really riding the curbs to try and get as much advantage as we can, as we've got 100% battery. Albon 5 tenths behind. Lando Norris takes the win in Shanghai for the main Grand Prix, and we're just going to burn all of the battery. We won't need it again. We can pretty much throw this battery in the bin after we're done with this race, and we're just going to sit awkwardly in the middle of the road. We do go a little bit deep with the lockup, but we keep it nice and tight just to avoid Albon going for the switchback. And it looks like if we keep this last corner, we lock up again, almost run a little bit wide. That gives Albon a little bit of a jump, but there's just not enough room before the line for him to overtake. Overall, a decent-ish race. We struggled a lot with the lockups again. We do need to improve this car week on week, but we're getting there. We're getting there.
And here he comes. It's all go, go, go for Lando Norris as he takes the checkered flag and wins.
A great display of dominance today, Crofty, by this driver. They led from lights out to the flag at the end, led every lap of the race. Brilliant stuff by them, and excited to see what more they can do in future races.
Our drivers are making their way out for the podium celebrations, and it's going to be McLaren picking up the winner's trophy. Congratulations to the entire team for that fantastic performance.
Absolutely. McLaren, Red Bull, Ferrari, all duking it out for that top spot in the Constructors' Championship. We're currently fighting, I think, for the head of the midfield. To be honest, we've only got a few points in the bank, but those couple of points really do make the difference between being last in the Constructors and, you know, 5th or 6th in the Constructors. And yeah, great showing.
And with that, we wrap up another weekend of motorsport action, but with more races lined up. Be sure to join us when we come back with more Formula One.
Exactly, and we'll be back next week for the next race. But as you can see, a mix of points here for everybody. You know, Norris getting 6 in the sprint race, 25 to make it a full 31 for the weekend. We are the top sort of runner-up of the people who didn't get points, just to kind of show you how close we were to getting some points on the board there. As Lewis Hamilton didn't get any points from any race, which is a bit of a surprise. And yeah, as you can see, just some of the standings here for you for the race, and just missing out on points behind Yuki Tsunoda was where we were, but crucially ahead of Alex Albon, who came through really well. He started P17 to end up in P12. We started P10 and dropped back to P11. So a good mix there. Jarno ahead of Sargent. Could be worse, he could have been dead last, but Lewis Hamilton's DNF really changed things. And the highlights obviously will play in the background here for you if you want to just check out some of the clips again from this kind of angle. Obviously I like to use them through the video just to keep things a bit interesting, a bit fresh, and also give you a bit of perspective of where the other cars are on track. Sometimes they can kind of get lost in, you know, the field of view that we have when you're sort of driving the car. In the actual career mode, you can't see everything around you, so it's quite interesting to just see the battles, or see the two cars on the inside as you're making a swoop around the outside, as I think we'll probably see here, maybe here, of the first part, or maybe that was a sprint race. Either way, all the highlights are here for you to enjoy, and if you did like the video, do the thing, leave a like. If you want to keep up to date with every episode that comes out when it comes out, hit that subscribe, hit the bell so you always receive those notifications, and it saves you having to search F1 career mode in YouTube and scroll down until you eventually find my videos. Whichever way you want to do it, you know, up to you, but subscribing is the best way to see as soon as I upload. So that's it for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed. A bit of a long one, but sprint race included, so I'm not upset at all. Good racing. Let's get closer to those points next week.